David Lynch is well regarded as one of the best and most unique filmmakers in modern American cinema. Not only have his films garnered critical acclaim, like Blue Velvet and The Elephant Man, but some have even gone on to have whole college courses dedicated to them, like his film Mulholland Drive. But, in my opinion, his best film, and the film that encapsulates the themes and motifs of his entire filmography, is his 1992 cult classic, Twin Peaks: Fire Walk with Me. Fire Walk with Me is not only a masterclass in shot composition, lighting, and editing, but is an amazing case study on a troubled female high school student, and the horrors she faces as her small town seemingly does not see them, or want to see them. To talk about Fire Walk with Me, we must first talk about the television show that spawned the film, Twin Peaks. Twin Peaks ran for 2 seasons in 1989 and 1990 and was massively successful for the time. The show is a parody of soap operas of the time, and is chock full with humor and unique characters that a lot of people enjoyed, even with the extra layer of, let's say, Lynchian weirdness that he's known for. Lynch, who was already famous for films at the time, jumped to television, which was a shot of energy to the landscape at the time. He collaborated with television writer Mark Frost, who kept the episodic feel, but none of Lynch's style left the show, until his departure due to creative differences with the studio about halfway during the second season, but more on that later. Twin Peaks tells a story about a small town in Washington that is shocked to find out about the death of the popular homecoming queen, Laura Palmer. Laura is found wrapped in plastic and washed up on the river, and it is up to FBI agent Dale Cooper to solve who murdered Laura Palmer. Everyone in the town is a suspect, including Bobby, her boyfriend, James, her secret lover, her drug dealer Leo, and the mysterious one-armed man. Dale uses his dreams and visions of other dimensions to help him solve the case. Lynch had no intention of revealing the killer, but since the show grew in popularity, the studio forced him to reveal who the killer was. To the surprise of many at the time, it was revealed to be Laura's father, Leland, who was also possessed by an evil spirit, Bob. After this reveal, Lynch was disheartened by the studio, so he left, until he came back to direct and write the series finale to try and revitalize the show after the viewership was in a steep decline after the reveal of the killer. Nobody cared anymore. So now we are at the film. Lynch reportedly fell in love with the character of Laura Palmer so much that he wanted to provide her with the depth and closure that he thought she deserved. The film recounts the last 7 days of Laura Palmer's life, so it serves as a prequel to the show and is also a study of how she was feeling upon her death. Laura sees visions of the man who has been haunting her for years and knows that she will soon come face to face with her killer. The 2 most distinct factors in why this film is so amazing and rich is not only in the way Laura Palmer is written, but how the story is presented. Audiences at the time had complete disdain for the film. Scattered reports even say that when the film was premiered at the Cannes Film Festival, it was booed and received some harsh critical reactions. For starters, the second season ended on a massive cliffhanger that left the fate of Agent Dale Cooper unknown, and some of the evil entities in the show still at large. This led many to believe that the film would clear up these loose ends, but to nobody's surprise, and in true Lynch fashion, it did not.
How's Annie? How's Annie? How's Annie? How's Annie? How's Annie? How's Annie?
Also, the first act of the film does not even take place in Twin Peaks, nor does it star any of the characters from the show, except for Lynch himself, who plays the near-deaf FBI director Gordon Cole.
Oregon!
We see Agent Chester Desmond investigating the death of another woman 1 year before Laura, named Teresa Banks. Desmond goes to the town of Deer Meadow to investigate, and he seemingly disappears from existence only after a day or two. Not only does this section of the film introduce the seedier and darker side of the world, it sets up the tone for the rest of the film. The film is almost devoid of all the humor and wit that the show was known for, and we see a much darker tone akin to the noirs of the 40s that Lynch loves so much. We see evil seeping into this world, and our agents are not looking where they should be looking, much like how we saw the downfall of Laura in the show. This opening section also opens the actual world of Twin Peaks into much stranger territory that Lynch did not know he would ever even return to until the revival season, The Return, in 2017. We see characters like Philip Jeffries, played by David Bowie, appear and disappear without any explanation. In hindsight, this whole opening section plays an extremely important role to the new season and overall lore of the world. But at the time, audiences were baffled. Who is Philip Jeffries? What is this room where evil lives? Why does Philip Jeffries keep yelling Judy?
Well, now, I'm not going to talk about Judy. In fact, we're not going to talk about Judy at all. We're going to keep her out of it.
None of this gets an answer, and none of it really got an answer for another 25 years. But since Lynch had creative freedom outside of a television studio, he puts all of this in. Finally, we get to the most important aspect of the film, Laura and her relationship with her father Leland. Laura is seen as a girl who has the whole weight of the world on her back. She is tutoring multiple people, does Meals on Wheels for the community, and seemingly has a bright future ahead of her. But deep within her, she is a troubled person, an abused person, someone with a drug addiction, someone who sees a therapist on the side, and someone who is physically and mentally tortured by her father. The whole film, we see her crying out for help, and everyone turns away. Everyone in this town thinks the whole world revolves around them, and when the girl who has been helping all of them the most, she needs help the most. She winds up selling her body for sex, and ultimately drags her best friend Donna in with her. She knows she is too late to be saved, and that's the saddest thing about her. If everyone would have seen this earlier and lent out a helping hand, Laura might have been saved. Her father, Leland, is ultimately the villain of the film, but he is seen as a much more two-dimensional character than the show perceives him as. We see him abuse and torment Laura over simple things like washing her hands before dinner, and then backtrack on these acts.
Oh, I'll sit down. But not a one of us is going to start eating until Laura washes her hands. Wash your hands!
Is this all Leland? Is some of this Bob and the evil infecting Leland? The film goes into much more detail about this, even during a haunting scene where we see Leland almost having intercourse with Teresa, who Leland was sleeping with on the side, and his own daughter. Why nobody looked in the home for Laura's hardships in the first place is a question the film raises and asks us, the audience, to try and answer. Everybody needs help. Everybody needs a shoulder to cry on. But what if that shoulder is just as troubled as you are? Are we to blame for her death? Lynch shows the true horrors lying underneath an idyllic suburban lifestyle in such a stylistic and incredible way that I think no other film has ever topped it.